Hello. So today we're looking at angles again, and in particular, we're going to be looking at angles in parallel lines. So what we'll be able to do by the end of this video is we'll be able to identify corresponding angles. We'll know what that means, and we'll be able to use them. And then in the next video, we'll be doing this bit, identifying alternate angles in parallel lines and being able to use the facts that we know about those. Okay. So first of all, let's talk about what we mean by parallel. Possibly you've already come across this before, but it's good to have a reminder of what on earth we're talking about here. So we say that two lines are parallel to each other if they're sort of going in the same direction, and if I were to extend them sort of indefinitely forever and ever and ever, so say this line went on like that forever, and this line went on like that forever and ever and ever, those are never going to meet each other because they are parallel to each other. And the way that we show that two lines are parallel is we have this little sort of marking or notation. We pop a little arrow. Oh, that is a rubbish arrow. I will try that again. Pop a little arrow. There we go. That's better. On the lines to show that they're parallel. So that's what parallel lines look like. Lines that aren't parallel then might be lines that go doop, doop. Those clearly aren't parallel because they cross each other. Parallel lines are never going to cross each other. So those would be not parallel. Or lines that... So these ones don't cross each other, but they would, right? We can imagine if I were to carry on with these lines, maybe somewhere almost at the top of my screen here, about here, those lines would eventually cross each other. So those lines aren't parallel, these ones are parallel. So these ones are parallel, these ones not parallel. And parallel lines don't have to be going in sort of this direction. We can have parallel lines that go, let me grab a wee bit more space, if I get rid of these guys. We could have parallel lines that are going sort of vertically, like this, and again like that. That looks sort of broadly parallel. So they can go in any direction, and we'd show that they are parallel with that little arrow. One extra little thing about the arrow symbol: if I were to put one arrow on my new set of parallel lines, oh, missed it again. Oh, sorry. There we go, that'll do. Then that can get a little bit confusing because I've said that these two lines are parallel to each other, and I've showed that with one little red arrow. And now I've added a one little red arrow over here as well. But this line clearly isn't parallel to that line, right? If I was to carry this one on, they're going to cross each other about here. So to show that these two lines here are parallel to each other, but they're not parallel to these guys, we add an extra set of arrows. So 1, 2, like that. So I'm really bad at drawing these arrows. There we go. That's a little bit better. So that's showing these ones have two arrows on to show that these are parallel to each other. These ones only have one arrow on to show that these are parallel to each other. And if I had a third set, I could add on 3 little arrows, 4 little arrows, etc. So 1 arrow, these guys are parallel. 2 arrows, these guys are parallel. Okie dokie. So corresponding angles then is the next thing we need to look at. Let's say I've got a picture that looks like this, where I've got 2 parallel lines. We know that they're parallel because they've got the little arrows on them. So AHB and CGD are both parallel lines, and then I've got this other line that's kind of cutting through them. This EGHF line is cutting through my 2 parallel lines. And the angles that we say are corresponding to each other are the ones that are sort of in the same place, in the corresponding place of on the diagram, on each side of the parallel line. So up here and down here we get these sort of crossy bits that look the same. So I'll show you what I mean. So this angle down here is corresponding to this one up here, and I'll mark those both in red. Another pair of corresponding angles then. This one down here, see if you can guess which one it's going to be corresponding to. It's corresponding to this one here. Can you see what I mean by that? They're being in the corresponding place. So this red one and this red one are sort of bottom left in this top cross, bottom left in this bottom cross. This one's kind of bottom right, so is that one. Then let's choose another colour. This angle is going to be corresponding to, again, can you guess which one? This one down here. Whoops, that one there. And then my 4th pair of corresponding angles is going to be this one here, corresponding to, the only one that's left, this one here. And those angles are corresponding, and the reason it's worth knowing about corresponding angles, and the reason that it's useful, is because corresponding angles are always equal. So corresponding, might be worth writing this down as a note if you have your notes jotter, or somewhere else if you don't have your regular school notes jotter. Corresponding angles in parallel lines are equal. So that means that if I knew what this green angle was, then I'd know what this green angle is. Or if I knew what this orange one is, then I know what this orange one is. They're equal, so it's useful for us finding missing angles, which is what we're going to be doing. It's also worth remembering how we name our angles. So if I was talking about, say, this green angle at the top, I'd call this angle FHB. Yeah, I'd call that angle, let's write that on, angle FHB. So which angle is FHB corresponding to? Well, we know it's this green one down here, so what would I call it? I could call it HGD, couldn't I? So angle HGD. Those two are corresponding angles, and that is how I would name them. If you need a reminder on how we name angles, a couple of weeks ago is when those videos would have been posted, so have a little look at those, or ask your teacher if you're not sure. Right, so let's have a look at some examples of how we might use this. So I'm going to do this example here on the left, and then you can have a look at this one on the right, and we'll see if we agree with each other. So first of all, let's read the question. Calculate the size of angles x and y. So x and y are these ones, and give reasons for your answers. So let's start with x, shall we? I reckon that this here is a straight line. That's a straight line through there. So I reckon that these angles here are going to have to add up to 180. So if I've got this one here being 150, I can do 180, take away 150, which I reckon is going to give me 30. So x equals 30 degrees because they are on a straight line. Good, and then angle y is going to be simpler, I think, because we were just talking, weren't we, about corresponding angles. Now, if this line and this line are parallel to each other, we know they're parallel because they've got these little arrows again, then which angle is corresponding to this 150 degrees? Well, this one up here, those angles are corresponding, right? They're in the same sort of position. Bottom right in this crossy bit and bottom right in this crossy bit. So angle y, whoops, need a pen, angle y equals 150 degrees because it's corresponding. Because it's apologies for my dodgy handwriting on this tablet. Corresponding. I've flipped across the other side as well. Okay, so this one we can use our straight line fact that we learned earlier, and this one we can use our corresponding angles fact that we learned just now. Okay, pause the video at this point, have a look at this one on the right hand side, and restart it when you're done to see if your answer agrees with my answer. Okay, welcome back. So let's start then with x. Angle x is this one here, and we've got a situation where these guys are vertically opposite. Remember vertically opposite from our first lesson on angles? So vertically opposite angles are equal, which means that x is going to equal 99 degrees, the same as this one over here, because they are vertically opposite. I'll just write that as my reason. Vertically opposite. There we go. So angle y then, let's write in what we've just found. In fact, so x, that's 99 degrees. Angle y over here, that looks to me like it is corresponding. Here are my two parallel lines, 1, 2, parallel, and I've got this crossy bit and I've got this crossy bit. These guys are in corresponding positions on that line, aren't they? So this x and this y are in corresponding positions, so that means corresponding angles are equal, so y equals 99 degrees as well. And I'm going to say the reason is because they are corresponding. And the last one then is z. Now this is a straight line. On a straight line they have to add up to 180. If this one here is 99, what's left over? It's going to be 81, isn't it? So angle z must be 81, equals 81 degrees, and the reason for that is they're on a straight line. So hopefully you got the, I can't spell today, sorry, a straight line, that'll do. Hopefully you got those same answers. 81, there we go. Yeah, so check yours against mine. And next we're going to look at some practice questions then. So attached to this assignment on Google Classroom is a PDF. We're going to look at the first part of that PDF, which does a little bit of a recap of what I've just told you. And we're going to start by looking at all of the questions in exercise 5. So you're going to need to draw out some of these diagrams. It might be worth finding a ruler or something straight that you can draw those diagrams with to make them nice and neat and accurate. Exercise 5 are the ones we're going to look at just now, and then in the next video we'll move on to the next part. And just as a little reminder, this diagram might help when we're looking for corresponding angles. This is the sort of picture that we're looking for. So once you've had a crack at those questions, come back here and I will show you what the answer should have been and you can check your work. Okay, so how did that go? These are answers to the first few, so questions 1 through to 7. Pause it while you mark it would be a good idea. The next set of answers, this is most of question 8. Again, pause it while you mark it. And the last two little bits are here, the last parts of question 8 are there. So mark your work. If there are any that you're not sure about or that you can't work out for whatever reason, you can ask your teacher about those and your teacher will be able to help you out. Otherwise, on to the next video.